Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to have a bit of a chill day. It's just going to be one of my quarterly art updates with a lot of what I've drawn this quarter. Not everything, because I have quite a few that I kind of just tossed. There are many more in this that are unfinished or that are just flats because I just decided I've been hanging on to this too long. I need to just, so I can move on to something else, because clearly I don't want to work on this drawing anymore. So you'll see more of those. And along with what I've been drawing and sort of my drawing process, I'm just going to talk about some various, writing project related things, life related things, thoughts, almost sort of like a I don't want to say it's a vlog, because I'm not I don't got enough going on in my life to actually talk about like life. But I do have thoughts of like things that I've learned, things that I've observed, kind of what's going to go on forward, and just emotions. So, feel free to bring your thoughts, your emotions, how your last 3 months have been going for anything that you are working on, and what you are looking forward to into the next couple of months. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on this channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on this channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lamwai, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first Monday video of the month, we bask in your creative genius like we did on Monday. Like, you guys brought it with the home appliance lovers. Thank you so much. It was so fun to read, and I'm looking forward to next month. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover to the Fresh Meat feature, it'll be right here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work, because I want to do what I can here to spread your work, even if I am unable to read it or I'm not your target audience. That doesn't mean the audience is not out there. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. My newest novel, Bodymore Zero, is coming out in October. It features these two gentlemen right here, Ralph and Casey, the most unexpected of brothers. And I'm looking forward to sharing it. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy it, or at least sort of almost as much. With that said, let's get into this. And if you're new around the channel, I picked up drawing at the end of December 2022, in part response to the generative AI stuff, and in part response because I was really, really inspired by my good friend, I would say my chosen family, part of my chosen family, Morris, who is now also one of my creative partners. And she picked up drawing again. And her picking up drawing again, combined with the creating of Yakuza characters like Hitomi and then turning into Katsuo and eventually Michi, got me into drawing to try to just more visualize what I put out there. So in the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, because it'll be 2 years in December since I picked it up, and I've on and off drawn over mostly the last couple of years, but hardly at all, like not drawing at all. And I'm a little disappointed in myself, because I used to draw all the time as a kid, and then I just stopped when I went into college. And then I just never really picked it up again, and I hated everything that I drew. And so I've been making a concerted effort since December of 2022. And so with that, I have a lot of ugly babies. Like, I have a lot of ugly drawings, but I've been wanting to share the process with you guys of my learning to draw, my just going forward, so that you can see how it, at least one process of how it goes. Because I know that I have a tendency to focus so much on the final thing, even when I'm working on a novel, and I think, how am I freaking gonna get there? Like, I literally finished Bodymore Zero, and I was thinking about how I need to start my next project, and I was like, I don't know how to write anymore. Oh my gosh, how do I characters? So anyway, I wanted to show this process, even if it's kind of embarrassing to look at terrible drawings, because I also think that it can be interesting to see how somebody grows over time. Like yesterday, I was looking at an earlier drawing of Michi, like even earlier from this year. Maybe I should show that at the end of this too. I have Michi is so consistent at this point. And you would think that I would be better at drawing combed back hair, considering half of my current characters that I draw have different styles of combed back hair. Because you got like Casey and Katsuo and Marcella and Michi, but I still hair is hard. Everything is hard. Anyway, enough of the chatter. I'm going to talk to you as we go anyway. So let's just get started. And we're starting with a very old image, actually, because I actually started this one back in January when I was still actively working on Katsuo drawings where he was wearing other people's clothing. If you saw some of my other drawings, then you've seen him wearing Daigo's outfit. There was him wearing Kiryu's outfit. I should like show a series of those. But that one I wanted to just finish, and it was that was in Kuze's because he's got the wrap and the powder blue pants. But I mostly just wanted to finish that one because I had given up on it. But I did use one of Monty's drawings to help me figure out how to draw a back, and he's got a very slim figure, much like his father. This was also an older drawing that I actually started the line art last year, and then I was working on it earlier this year, and then I was just like, I need to decide to finish this because it needs to stop sitting on my dashboard as something I need to do, and if I'm going to draw this drawing, then I need to just do it another day. I didn't even know if I was going to share this one because I feel like it is just so terrible and so unnecessary, by the way. It is Ambrose and Billy from The Legend of Bill Cassidy. And clearly having a moment, hopefully not walked in on by Ike, because that's a problem. Anyway, so getting into, I have a list of things that I want to talk about sort of today, going through the video, and I may or may not separate from my list to talk about a drawing as we go, but I'm going to try to be more focused. I already tried to do this once, and my thoughts were just like freaking everywhere. So I need to, I need to contain myself. The first thing I want to talk about today is Body More Zero, which is obviously my upcoming novel, and just how difficult that was to work on. And I want to bring that up because I think that I see it a lot in the writing, in people working on their projects, right? Where it's like, this feels so hopeless and I don't know what to do and it's such a problem and am I even cut out for this? And for the entire time that I've been working on Body More Zero, I've wondered if it was even worth anything. Like, is this even a good story? Is this so boring? And when I'm working on the drafting and the revision, and for me, revision is a complete rewrite from the bottom up. You got the old version on one side, the new version, the empty document on the other side, and you just start writing. And so you rewrite the entire document. And I usually do 2 to 4 revisions before I go into editing. And editing and then starts with like cutting words, making lines better, pulling out character moments if I can to figure that out. And I don't normally get to see how the story actually reads until I'm out of revision, until I'm out of that brain that is the creation brain. I can't more objectively look at the story and see any value in the story. And so for almost the entire time that I've been working on Body More Zero, I was like, does this have any impact? Is this any good, period? And then as I started editing, I started being able to like it and started being like, oh, that's a good interaction. Oh, that's a great character moment. But then I still wonder if it's going to have an impact on other people, or if the characters are going to mean anything to other people like they mean to me. And I just want to assure you that even if you're struggling, there's more meaning and more value in the story than I think that you're able to see when you're actively working on it. And it's not until you can get out of that hardcore construction brain then that you may be able to actually see what it is that you're doing. So if you're feeling demotivated or you're struggling, it might be worth it to, one, you have to just push through it. That's one thing I have to do is freaking every single time I start struggling, I go, okay, I got to give myself a word count to get through to make sure that I get the work freaking done, because I'm not going to be able to see this until I can actually get it freaking done. Also, for the record, when I'm struggling, this is relevant to the drawing. When I'm struggling with art, I've noticed there are 2 different things that well, maybe 3 different things that I do. One is I've been drawing Khan a lot when I've been these last couple of months. He was a character from what I made when I was 16, and he resurfaced in January when I was creatively struggling with character vibes. Yes, the vibes are back. But I had character vibes for something, and I couldn't figure out what. And I tried to draw a couple of characters to figure out what those character vibes were. Those characters sucked. Then I ended up redrawing Khan, and then Khan just like beamed into my head with everything about him that had never been discovered before, him and Malik. And so now I got the brothers, the alien brothers. And I've noticed in the last couple of months that I default to drawing Khan, and Khan gets drawn with very expressive. Um, because his kind, his alien kind, doesn't they're telepathic. So they don't speak with words. They all speak in their heads and they all know how each other feels through the telepathy. So when they are going on other planets, they're also mercenary style alien race. And because they're also kind of hive-minded with the telepathy, they they all act as a unit. Um and since they don't got to communicate out loud, if they're going to communicate with outsiders, they actually have to learn how to communicate. This is Khan's little brother, Malik. They have to learn how to communicate with other species, which means actually teaching themselves how to do facial expressions in order to correctly emote to other creatures. And so what Khan does, because he's also a convict, because he's, I mean, obviously broken some international law, he's a merc, but not all of them become mercs, by the way. Just certain ones get that duty. They all serve the community over the self, and then they can have their special individual stuff. But because Khan is he's a little bit trolly. And so when he practices his emotions, he always exaggerates. And I just imagine him being in the cockpit all the time and just like looking at himself in the mirror and just doing the most ridiculous faces. And when he was in prison, he would do the same thing. And so I think he uses his facial expressions to mess with people. So when you see me draw Khan often, when I'm struggling creatively, I will often go and find exaggerated emotions and draw Khan with exaggerated emotions. Some of the other things that I've noticed that I do when I'm struggling and I'm just not happy with anything that I'm drawing is I'll also default to doing chibis and emotions. Specifically, I like to do emotions. You'll see at the end of this video that I'm in this like series of doing the Westies with little emotional stickers that are now on the Discord. But that's what I do. And then sometimes it turns into Michi, but I think I do Michi to test my skills more than anything because she comes out pretty consistent to this point. And I got some of those too. So you'll see some comparisons of Michi over, I guess, the last little while, because I've got from last year and I've got one from more recently. And then I have another one that I actually just drew this morning-ish. Well, the last couple of days. Yesterday? That actually is, I don't know how to feel about it. It was a redraw. So this image right here was actually supposed to be Seneca. When I was driving down the street and one of the signs that I saw a month ago said Seneca, and I was like, that's a character name. Immediately, I just got beamed in the head with Seneca / Sunny, nickname Sunny. And so then I was trying to put a face to Seneca / Sunny, and I thought that it would be related to the aliens. So I was trying to come up with an appearance that would fit Seneca / Sunny, and nothing was working. As you can see, I even wrote Seneca / Sunny on this. I don't know what I was doing, but turns out Seneca is not anything to do with aliens and actually is going to be in Monty's series, Numenor Star, though not for a while. She comes in the third book. And you'll see in the future she is a painter. And I went through also a lot of struggling to figure out her appearance. You're not going to see most of the sketches that I did of her because I did line art and I just I wasn't catching the vibe of her personality, which goes back into the struggle of so much of my work has to do with hearing the voice of the character, and that's what defines it for me. And if I can't freaking figure out the character voice, the main character voice especially, then I can't figure out anything. And that, for me, character voice also requires the narrative voice, since the narrative voice is specifically inspired by the character voice. And recently I've had, I think, a couple of injections of that, of information beamed into my head for new projects and to figure out character voice. And I'm going to get into that when I talk about the new projects I'm going to be working on after I finish talking about Body More Zero. So Body More Zero was a struggle. It's coming out in October, and I still have to do some final edits. Like, I want to try, I'm so behind. I'm supposed to do the audiobook so I can do a final copy edit on it, because I find so many more things reading it specifically out loud that I don't find any other way. That other beta readers, I love them. There's always stuff that gets missed unless I read it slowly out loud. And I'm so behind on that. Isn't he adorable? I like his design so much. I'm sorry if that's narcissistic. I think he's fun. That's his natural state. He's not angry. He's just naturally no expression. Like I said, they talk to each other telepathically. Anyway, so I got so much to do to get Body More Zero ready. ARC copy is theoretically coming in August, at the end of July, probably August, since the release date is October 31st, so expect August. You may have also noticed that I stopped posting art on Wednesdays, like art quick draw videos, and I got a little self-conscious. We're gonna get to a couple Billy drawings, and I have no idea why it is, but it's like every time I post a Billy picture, she gets critiqued. Like, she is the one that gets critiqued. And it started months ago, and I don't know why it is. But somebody always got something mean to say. I shouldn't say mean, it's just critical. But like, nobody else gets critical comments except for Billy. And it's always on stuff that I'm like, I actually feel pretty good about this. And then it's like, backhand. So I just started feeling low confidence, so I decided to stop posting for a little while because I didn't want to demotivate myself. I'm learning how to draw. I'm sharing the ugly process. And in order to protect myself, so I don't get demotivated and go, why am I even doing this? I had to stop for my own good. But I'm still here with this. I may or may not continue doing those videos in the future. I mean, I have a couple drawings that I'm pretty happy with right now. Like, man, I love drawing Con. This is such a fun picture. Others may disagree, but I think this is a very specifically fun picture of Con. I just love drawing him. He is such a weirdo. See, with he does have asymmetrical hair, which he cut himself because he wants to look a little more insane than he actually is, and that's his prison outfit. Oh, I forgot, I gotta put stripes on some of his pictures that I didn't finish. I reminded myself that the other day and I forgot it again. But he specifically wants to look insane when he feels like it, which is why he's got the very big expressions. And then he took his prison shirt and he just cut it to make him look crazy, and then put it back together and like stitched it back together. You got the pins over here, and I mean, he is also very circa, you know, late 2000s style. If you see the rest of it, I have a picture from the first couple of months of this year where he's got a full body, and it's got like tight leather pants with belts around his legs and like platform boots. And he got a double pistol. He's the kind that there's a defense system that is intrinsic to them, that you threaten them and they kind of, it turns into a ripple effect of all of the other cores, because that's what their alien race is called, the cores. And so then they all get that same beam of, oh, need to protect against the threat, destroy the threat. And there is no stopping once they've marked you as a threat. And so what Khan does in a desperate situation is he will put a gun to his own head to threaten himself, and it'll engage that system and attack whatever, because it's just a merciless system. Anyway, so new projects going forward, since Body More is coming to an end. My Body More is coming to an end. And in case you didn't know, Body More is a series that is going to, some of the characters in are going to move into another character. It has a collaborative thing going on with it. Body More is something that I totally worked on, but it has a crossover with Monty's series, the Numina series, where Casey and Ralph here will be moving into her series as she goes forward. So you're going to see elements from the Numina series that are not going to necessarily be explained in Bodymore, they're going to be there, like Tacitus, like Marcia, but they're not going to be fully explained until you go into the Numinous series, because that's going to carry on, let these men carry on their legacy and keep growing. Um, it's what they've been waiting for 10 years without realizing it. So, since my job with Bodymore is almost done, except for collabing with Monty as she works on her series, I'll be working on a couple other projects. And at first, I started working on Boom. You probably remembered hearing me say I was working on Boom Shakalaka Boom. I probably should too, because it's such a light project. But instead, I decided to, in the last couple of weeks, actually last month, I think, I decided to return to Cain and Abel. And Cain and Abel is a project that I put down so many times. I initially wrote it in, oh, look, we're back into drawing Sunny, attempting to draw Sunny. Um, Cain and Abel was a project I initially wrote in like 2018, 2019, before Bodymore 1. And I wrote that alongside my sci-fi Western thing and alongside Creatures Lie Here, as I was kind of just going through projects trying to figure out what my methodology was for finishing stories. And so I wrote like a draft and then moved on to something else, and then wrote a draft of something else and then moved on to something else. And so then I came back around to Cain and Abel, and I struggled with Cain and Abel because I couldn't find the character voice. And like I said earlier, I got to know the character voice in order for me to move forward with anything. But every time I wrote it, it was just so stiff. And I couldn't, like, I can feel the vibe of the characters. But I was really disappointed in myself with what was coming out, with the way that it was sounding, with just, it was not good. And so then I just kept getting not good in the way of like trying to grapple the characters. And so then I kept putting it down because I kept being demotivated by not being able to figure out what the frick to do with it. So I moved on to something else. And then obviously I got wrapped up in the Bodymore series. So there was no coming back to Cain and Abel. And I didn't realize that I left it in the middle of draft 2, where only some chapters got redone, but it still was very, very stiff. So I've started rewriting it last month, and it was still very stiff. And you'd think after all of these books where I've figured out how to write, how to grab characters, that I would be doing better. And I realized I didn't have the right voice for that book. Well, lo and behold, like 2 days ago, because I'm crossing thoughts right now. Lo and behold, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I came to the conclusion of what I needed to do for this book. And I apparently just like doing hard to do perspectives that nobody wants to hear. Because what I determined I need to do for Cain and Abel is, one, it needs to move into past tense for the most part. I figured out, I think a couple of weeks ago, the final chapter. I need to completely change the final chapter from what it is right now, from what it was in its first draft. And that's going to allow the whole rest of the book to be written in past tense instead of present tense. But then what I realized 2 days ago is that instead of it saying first and third person, because it's in first person and Abel has his brother Cain with him the entire time, almost the entire time. There are times when Cain goes and disappears to do his own thing. But for the most part, Cain is always there as a companion. And it's very important that Cain is there because he plays a very important role to Abel. However, I realized that I think the book needs second person. Because the entire time is Abel talking to Cain about their life. And so it's going to say, you did this, you did that, when talking about Cain, because Abel is talking to Cain. And then in the final chapter, it's going to be in present tense. Because it's talking to him. And so I apparently like a challenge, and I apparently like to write what nobody likes to read. So this book is going to be very interesting. But since I started testing it out, writing it with Cain being you, the voice has come out a lot more. Now, this really quick on this drawing. I was talking to Monty about something, and she brought up alpha males. I think she sent me a video that was opining on something. And I thought Ralph Male was the funniest thing because he is just the sweetest man that you will ever meet. There is not an alpha dominant bone in his body. When you read the book, you will see he is so passive and so gentle. He couldn't hurt anything. But the idea of him being a Ralph male was hilarious. And then you've got, you can't have Ralph without Casey. They're a dynamic duo. They're brothers for everything. And so then you got him with his rapper name, Ka-ching. Okay, back up to my new project. So we're going to try to get through Cain and Abel now, rewriting it in that new tense to see if we can get to the end. But I had to test it on a little portion and see how people responded to it before I went ahead and tried to write the entire thing that way. But I have a lot of faith in it and in doing it this way. Then another thing is I just have transgressive projects. I have to release Cain and Abel before my other transgressive project, because over the last few months that I have been just reading and exploring, I came up with a new project that I feel like I need to write more immediately. And I would be working on the Legend of Bill Cassidy. I'm so excited for the Legend of Bill Cassidy, but Monty's got to work on Numenor Star, so I can't work on Bill Cassidy without her, since that is actually an active collab. Oh, look, it's another attempt at Sunny. I told you, I struggled with Sunny's appearance so much. I'll tell you when we get to the actual point of, oh, this is Sunny. But I had to figure out her personality before I could figure out what she looked like. Again, the vibes are everywhere, you guys. I've been seeing, you know who you are. The vibes be everywhere, though. Anyway, I've got a new project that I'm also working on. So I'm revising Cain and Abel, and then I'm trying to draft this other project at a slower rate, at least to get it done. And I've got a title, Predisposed to Bliss, and the main character's name is Isabella Bliss, and that's all that I'm going to give you on that. But I'm very excited. I like the title. I like the character that is coming out, and it was like, I had the idea for the story, and then that's kind of all that stuck there. Like, okay, this is the general thing. And it was like 2 weeks later after that where I got an injection of her voice in my head, and the theme of the story actually started to take shape. And now every time I get a little bit more of a voice of a scene, the theme is taking more shape, and I'm very excited to see how this story actually develops. But again, that was like one of those situations where I was like, I have forgotten how to write. I don't know how to make characters, because this story came to me and I was like, oh no. How do I form her? How do I form Isabel? I can't hear a voice. What do I do? Oh yeah, you will notice that Sunny likes the baggy pants. She do baggy pants, and she do plain shirts because she's a painter, and she do fanny pack. Like, that's where we're gonna get. You'll see. Her husband did not like her style. This was one of the final pictures that I posted before I decided to stop posting my quick draws, because I was actually pretty proud of how this turned out for what it was, because it was like a newer pose, a harder pose, and I felt like I was making progress in drawing and my style, and it didn't look horrendous. Like, it doesn't look amazing, but it didn't look horrendous, and it was just like, I was not ready for critique on it. And it's just like, you know when you feel proud of something and all you end up getting is not what you're prepared for? Again, it's like every time I've posted Billy specifically, it has been a criticism of some kind with her, and it has just made me feel so terrible. I love Billy, but it seems like I can't share her. So again, we've got another image here of another attempt here at trying to figure out Sunny's appearance. This is so not Sunny, though, because so much of it is personality. And sometimes personality is determined by name, but I gotta know where they're coming from. And at the time, all I knew was Sunny was a painter, and that I could feel that she was married. She's mid-20s. But I didn't know where she came from. And again, see, because I was struggling with Sunny, see me falling back onto my comfort zone, which is the boys. Freaking Khan. He's so cute. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. I know that you guys have likely noticed the odd polls on my channel, and I appreciate you going into them with an open mind and open heart. an open opinion, because I have discovered also in the last couple of months, and especially with looking at my current crop of projects that I want to do, that I'm a bit of a transgressive writer. And I'm not the kind of transgressive writer that tries to push the limits of gross or sexual or societal standards in a way, but I kind of present ideas that people don't want to talk about or that are kind of socially uncouth. Like if you look at Dead End Drive, it's entirely transgressive because it leans into stereotypes and presenting stereotypes. Oh my gosh, this is the fan art, the only fan art that I did for No More Heroes because I wanted to draw Foo. I love Foo, okay? That was a good game. Thank you, Grumble, for suggesting it. My life is better from having played it. Anyway, I realized that I am a transgressive writer because I just like to present ideas, present conversations. And you see it in the books that I also try to present a lot of the time, including, the controversial books, the opinions that'll get me in trouble, the choices that'll get me in trouble. And I'm very much looking forward to the book that I'm going to present next because I'm really enjoying it. And I think it'll spur interesting conversations. But that's what comes down to the polls is I know that often they're vague, but that's because I want you to put your values into the story. Or I want you to put your values into the question. Because what they do more than anything is they expose the different ways that we view the world. And I think that there is so much of a desire or a push to make everybody see things the same way, or to think that everything is the same way, or to attack people for thinking differently because they must be bad people if they think differently. Or there's a lot of conflict because we don't understand that everybody is looking at things in a very different way. And there's just a detachment that at some point you have to understand that the basis of how we view the world is just different. And that might be why the conversation is so different, is we think we're having the same conversation because we're using the same words, but our interpretations are entirely different since our foundation is different. And so that's what my poll questions really are more for, is there are no right answers in them. It is just meant to show the different perspectives. And if you look at some of them, they're very surprising. Like, I think obviously there are probably some people that answered the "is empathy real" as a joke to say no, it's not real. But I think that there are genuinely people that don't see empathy. And if they don't feel empathy, if they don't think empathy is real, then they're not going to think empathy from other people is real. And if you start with that basis of somebody does not believe in empathy, period, then you're not going to be able to have the same conversation if you assume and believe that empathy is real, but somebody else doesn't feel it, and so they don't think that it's real. And so just knowing that that difference exists when you're approaching somebody and that it is truly just how they see the world, it can really help to connect in having conversations that otherwise you might just take somebody the wrong way. And that is really something that I think is important after, especially, like, I have a lifetime of being misunderstood. Who does it, right? I'm not special in that. But I feel like I especially see this because of the book reviews that I do or the things that I cover on this channel, where it feels like people see me say something and then they go ahead and make assumptions about me in all of the different ways that they can. It doesn't matter what the political disposition is. I get it everywhere, depending on if I say something that is for or against what somebody believes. They're going to go ahead and assume why I said something the way that I did, or that I have all of these same opinions as them because we share the same opinion on this thing. And then they go to a different video and they see my opinion on something else, and then they're shocked that we're not the same person. And I think that we've gotten into a space, I'm sorry. Especially with online alcoves, where a lot of people are afraid to, one, be honest because they don't want to be ousted, they don't want to be beat up, they don't want to be mocked for having a different opinion. And I think a lot of people are afraid of that because over the years there's been a lot of, well, if you don't think like us, then you can't be here. And so there's a lot of defense because there's only one way to think in these circles. And that's not specific to any individual disposition or belief. I think it just has happened because of the echo chambers. This was drawn for Sam's character that he has, and he sent a cute little thing that looked just like that, but not his character, and I immediately was like, I need to draw your character, but as that thing. Anyway, this was actually, I think, the last drawing that I posted a quick draw of. And it was initially going to be Sunny until I couldn't figure out how to freaking draw Sunny's hair. And then I switched it to Billy, and it made more sense why I couldn't draw Sunny on it, because it was a Billy picture to begin with. Anyway, I think people get into these alcoves of wanting or needing to have all of the same opinions because they want or need to belong. And then there's this discomfort and this belief that if you disagree on something, then it's a fight. And so much instead now is, at least from my experience, my opinion, and maybe you've got a different one entirely, but so much feels like trying to do a gotcha, trying to find something to catch somebody as a hypocrite on, trying to find something to dismiss or disavow or show somebody's moral failures, or be like, oh, you said this, well, look at what you said here, instead of actually having a conversation. And I'm not saying that I'm the perfect conversationalist. I'm not. Going back to being transgressive, sometimes I specifically say things in order to evoke a reaction because I'm mirroring what I'm seeing, and that feels lost, but that is what satire is sometimes. Because a lot of the time, if you want to show how ridiculous something is, you have to show it to an extreme. You have to show the opposite, because people don't see the ridiculousness of their own actions, because that's just what they believe. So that's one of the reasons why Dead End Drive, I feel like, is, I don't want to say effective, because it obviously is not everybody's book at all. I would never recommend it to anybody. I love it. I think it's fun, but I also think it's a specific kind of book. But all of the characters in it are stereotypes, and they mock those stereotypes. And it's interesting to see which stereotype people focus on to get mad at and which ones they don't see. This is the actual first image of, aside, I should say first, before I get confusing. This is the actual first image of Sunny that got the closest to her energy and what she looks like. She's just, as her name would suggest, she is Sunny. She's very warm, very welcoming. She's very quiet because she comes from a domestic abuse background, and her husband actually broke her hand to make her stop painting because he was jealous. He didn't like that she had these other things. He tried to stop her from pursuing the arts because she went to art school, but her dad was an artist, and so she connects with her dad through the arts. And what happened was, when she was in high school, her dad died of cancer, and she had her high school boyfriend with her the entire time. And so that high school boyfriend pretty much took over that masculine position in her life and was there for her in her weakest emotional moment, in her moment of huge loss. And she eventually married that man because he was there for her. And once she got out of school, because he couldn't stop her from going to school, how important art was to her, once she got out of school, he started isolating her because he could, and then broke her hand. And eventually she does get away, but it's hard for her to break away because her husband is one of her connections to her father, considering he was around when her father was alive. So it's a very hard thing for her to do. Anyway, that was pretty much when I started actually discovering Sunny, after like 10 different drawings. Anyway, speaking of transgressive, you don't have to be outlandish. I want to say the final thing with being transgressive, you don't have to be outlandish, you don't have to be gross, you don't have to be Alyssa nutting and doing grotesque sex on a 14-year-old for 300 pages in order to elicit a conversation or a response. I mean, you can, but that's not the only way to be transgressive. Sometimes being transgressive is just being sincere, and that's personally where I'm at. I think the most transgressive thing you can do is not show maximum violence, not show a sadist trying to destroy somebody, or meanness, because everybody is cynical and mean right now. Everybody is morally gray. I think that the most transgressive thing that you can be is sincere. And feel free to disagree with me. But if you ask sincere questions, people are ready to fight you because they don't know how to take you. They don't know if you're serious. They don't know if you're stupid. And it goes back, I think, to Alex in Dead End Drive, where he says, you can't even trust people today to be stupid without it being a freaking, without the possibility of it being a freaking ruse. And I think we've gotten so used to this idea of building clout, of somebody presenting their ideas and then treating it like they are some sort of oracle, or they're some sort of source of all of the knowledge because they're putting that information out there in a formal setting, that it's now time to take somebody down if you disagree with them. You got to prove that they're stupid. They shared their opinion, which brings me to the disillusionment I have with the writing community in general. It feels like so stupid to interact with the in general writing community, because everybody's got their opinions, everybody's got their choices of how they're going to do things. But it feels like every time I try to converse with somebody that I don't know about writing, they're just in this aggressive mode. And then you tell them, hey, this isn't even an attack. They pretty much confirm, oh yeah, I pretty much just get attacked. So then when somebody disagrees with me on something or shares an opinion that is not just affirmative, I kind of automatically go on the attack. And so if people are automatically on the attack, what the frick is the point of even trying to talk to anybody about anything? It's really, really annoying, really sad, and I just don't see a point anymore with a lot of things. Even talking about books. Sometimes I really do wonder why I share books. I mean, I enjoy it, but it just leaves you up for so much personal attack when people are assuming why you are looking at something a certain way instead of just sharing how they read the book. And it's depressing. And it can be really hard to be hopeful when everyone is like this. For years, I used different websites to follow along. You know, I was on Twitter, I was on Parler, I was on Gab for a little bit until it was very obvious that Gab was very extreme. And I'm like, there's nothing for me here. I was on Minds, and everywhere I went with these different alternative communities, in addition to Twitter, by the way, just to try to diversify, it always felt pointless because everybody in any of them are just trying to use everybody else to get themselves forward. Nobody felt honest to me. And well, very few, I shouldn't say nobody, very few people, because I've met some incredible people through those alternative websites that I'm not going to name. You know who you are, but I have met some incredible people through them. But for the most part, I feel like in any time that I tried to really interact with groups on those websites, it became a political thing. You know, it was Minds where I was confronted about critiquing somebody's book because we're on the same side and it's us against the industry, so you can't critique our peers' books. I'm not going to be silenced. If I gave up going traditionally and holding my tongue so that I didn't go traditional, then I'm not going to let somebody else hold me back. But so many of these communities are all about just not critiquing each other to artificially boost each other up instead of talking about these things because you like them. It's all a power game. And that's very disillusioning. You know, you want to believe in these things. I have for years followed these different groups that have these different titles because they broke off from the mainstream, only to see really disgusting behavior and to watch the deterioration of decency and turn to insults and drama for everything. And that's why I am where I am. Which kind of goes into being used in assumptions. I'm gonna say right now, I start off every video by saying I'm an idiot because I'm constantly asking questions that probably look stupid. I'm constantly making observations that probably look stupid to many. And I just want to say I will always disappoint you on whoever you think I am, probably. Because I can't be some kind of perfect idol of opinions. And that's something that I've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed, in a lot of spaces where it's telling people what they want to hear and repeating the same ideas so that people feel comforted, affirmed that other people feel the same thing. And what I notice, because I do such back and forth videos, you know, you got Slay, and then you got Ben Shapiro, and then you have Gretchen's book, and then you have Critical Drinker's book, and then you have all of the ALA books, and then you have Shad's book. And so I bounce back and forth between extremes of controversial books. And obviously those appeal to different sorts of people. And so then they hear an opinion and they make an assumption one way or another. Some think that I hate Shad because I read Shad's book, and other people where was I going to go with that? Either way, people make assumptions about my intention, about how I feel, about my political leanings, about everything. And then they see a different video and they see that I'm not whoever they've painted me as. And they're either disappointed because I'm worse than they, I have opinions that they don't like, I speak in a way that they don't like, or whatever. But I've been failed by every community that I've been in, which includes graduate school, which includes undergraduate school, which includes theater. Oh my gosh, I am so disillusioned with theater after working in it for a few years. That I built this channel so that I could be honest about what I think and to think out loud. And I'm never trying to hurt people, but people will assume that anyway. And so, I mean, I'm glad if you're here, but I'm glad you're here to go along the ride with me of learning and sharing and talking. But I will disappoint you if you think that I'm going to be some beacon of a certain political leaning, of a certain moral value. Because what we are here and what I try to do is create a space of people being able to think and to ask questions and to not get in trouble for asking questions or speaking out loud and saying things that, you know, might be discouraged in mixed company. But they're interesting questions. And in order to better understand each other, we have to be able to have those conversations without assuming that everybody is the worst because of it. So just be prepared to be disappointed that we're probably not going to agree on everything, but that's also totally fine. I have so many friends, family members, people in my life that I don't agree with on everything. I don't care that I don't agree with them on everything because I love who they are as people. And that's what it comes down to, is nobody that I know is just a horrible person. Now, I know that there are horrible people. As I said, being on the internet is a very disillusioning thing. But I do want to create an idea of hope and discussion that you can be yourself and you're not going to be bullied for just being you. And I mean, really. Reviews are very revealing. You say one thing, and then people are going to assume that you said it for this reason or that reason. You're either for them or against them. And people don't realize just how much they reveal about themselves through reviews and the way that they review things. And that's a great thing. I love review discussion. Now, on the topic in general of discussion, peer pressure, insults, and drama. I have experienced, and I'm sorry for all the rest of you for having experienced this as well, is the attempt to pressure people into, or pressure me into compliance by trying to guilt, or trying to insult, or trying to belittle. It's funny, the sex positive people are the ones that have been some of the biggest bullies for just me sharing my personal choices, my personal morale, and not putting it on other people. Apparently, just sharing how I live my life is shaming other people for making different choices. But other people having different choices doesn't apparently affect me in any way, especially when I'm asked for my opinion. But I digress. I just want to encourage people not to give in to insult, not to give in to peer pressure, not to give in to people being like, hey, you should do this because everybody else is doing it. I don't really care what everybody else is doing. I have not cared about peer pressure since, I mean, I did say I've stopped using book review because somebody got mad at me for using book review for my book reviews, but I don't completely stop that. But people will try to control you into being ashamed of what you think or to ask any questions. And it's just a way to control the conversation and thought and to make you fear other people, really. Like, even in an open environment, you fear what you might say that might tick somebody off. And I want to get away from that. So I'm going to keep just, like, candidly speaking. And fortunately, my disposition and my mental disorders kind of make me a little bit more okay with being transgressive. And hopefully we can find a little more understanding than we used to have. That's mostly what I want to do here, is just that. We're going to have fun. We're going to tell stories. I'm going to encourage you to tell stories. And that brings us to the final thing. We got only a couple more drawings left, and it's going to be like Kaede and Katsuna, because for some reason at the end of this month, I was like, I have 4 drawings that I need to finish for the video. But instead, let's start 2 new drawings of Katsuna because I really want to draw him. And I did have his father up here somewhere, but, you know, dressed as the beautiful Garomi. But he ain't in here anymore. Oh, here we go, Katsuna, number 1. But anyway, the final note, I want it to be hopeful, and that is that I believe in you contemporary artists. I believe in my peers. I believe in what we're doing against the mobs of judgment, against the generative AI and the corporations that want to profitize off exploiting everyone and taking advantage of everyone. I believe that what we're doing is meaningful, because what we're doing is we're facilitating conversation, whether it is through our art or it's through actual one-to-one, and we're just getting better understanding of how each other thinks. That's what I think matters. So if you're feeling specifically, since this is an art-related channel and a writing-related channel, I want you to know that if you are thinking about your art, if you're thinking about your book, if you're writing, it's worth creating, because you are the only one that can make what you are writing. You are the only one with your voice. You are the only one that can present the story that you've got. And I hope that it's more obvious because of Lemoy. I give everybody the same prompt every month, and look at how differently it's taken based on the personalities of the authors, based on the ideas and thoughts and the humor and the way that well, not even humor every time, because it's gonna, some of them are very dramatic, but based on the disposition of everybody, everyone takes it completely differently and brings a different story. And that's what makes your story different. So if you wonder, has this been done too many times before? Is there anything special? I understand that feeling, because I feel it too. I wonder it all the time too. Is this story even worth telling? Is anybody even going to be interested in this? And all you can do is push through. Which brings me, that was the last of them. You know, you just got cute little Katsuna. Look at him. He's so adorable. Yes, he does play it up. He does play up the doll. Anyway, this brings me to the art comparison at the end of all of this. Because, and there is a point to showing this art comparison, because you'll never know where you're going to be as you're in the middle of working on it. You'll never know how far you can go. You'll never know the hearts that you're going to touch, or the voices that you're going to find, or the story that you're actually going to tell, in my opinion. Even if you've figured stuff out, you will never know how good you're going to get, because you cannot even fathom where you're going to get as you're working through it. So here are some comparison pictures of one of the first pictures of Billy that I drew. I mean, this is probably the 5th picture, because her appearance changed a couple of times while I was figuring out her character. And even since then, this is a picture of her that I drew in May, at the end of May. So just under a year's difference between these 2 pictures. And you can theoretically see the characterization that changed and finding out who Billy is. And over here, we just got her freaking watching her brothers probably fighting again while she's eating, and then trying to make her take sides, because that's how you do. Then you've got these couple of pictures of Michi, where the one on the left is the first Michi that I ever really drew. I mean, I kind of sketched an idea of a girl in December when Shigemi was first at the cabaret club, and I needed something because I was obsessively drawing these characters already. But then eventually I figured out who her character was, and you can see it more in that second picture, because that's where she developed into. And then here are 2 more images. The one on the left is one that I drew in March, so that is from the last quarter. And then the one that I have drawn on the right is actually one that I just finished yesterday, or sort of started yesterday, I should say, because it's not quite done. I still have to finish the shading. And so you can already see sort of the difference in the styles of these and the development of the work. And could you, I always find it incredible to look at the art when it's posted on like Twitter of where I was 5 years ago and where I am now. Because, like, how do you look at a stick figure or a terrible piece of art, a baby art, I should say baby art? How do you look at a baby art and then think of what you're going to know in 5 years, in 3 years? You can't. And so I want you to stay confident and stay hopeful, even in the dark, because I have to go through this argument with myself every day. Just finish the work, push through the work. You don't know yet. You'll see it eventually. Just push through the work, because you will be beyond your wildest dreams. And that's all that you got to remember. That and work really hard. And no matter what questions you ask, what stories you try to write, even if it is like Tampa, you know, I might ask how this got published by HarperCollins. I might ask if we really need this, but you still do what you got to do for you. So, them's be my thoughts from the last couple of months and some of my work for the last couple of years. I will be working on in closing. I'll just be drawing the same as normal, trying to figure out how to be more consistent and do better things eventually. I'll figure out how to color. And then my writing projects are gonna be Bodymore Zero coming out in October, working on Cain and Abel, which is hopefully gonna be my next project next year. May 21st is the date because it's an important date, and I determined years ago that that would be the date, so we'll see. And then Predisposed to Bliss, which I'm very excited to learn more about, and I will share more maybe someday as I discover it more, after I get through probably the first revision, so that I know what the story actually really is. But I'm very excited to discover it. With that said, let me know what you're working on. How have your last couple of months been? What are you going to be working on in the next couple of months? You don't have to say for the rest of the year, just until the next quarter, just into the next quarter. With that said, keep your chin up. Have faith that you will be beyond wherever you think that you are now. And have a good weekend. Happy 4th of July, and don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?